Look, I might not be Daniel Radcliffe or Harry Potter, but I'm the boy who lived thanks to being able to medically transition as a trans man. So, while you're going off on Twitter, think about that, JK. Okay guys, I'm gonna have to just pop this into the video. I made this video just before these new tweets and everything came out, and I just want to get into this and just put this in here. So J.K. Rowling just put a bunch of new tweets out, literally like not that long ago, like yesterday, saying, I've ignored fake tweets attributed to me, retweeted widely, all these things. She's basically saying, when you lie about what I believe about mental health medication and when you misrepresent the views of a trans woman for whom I feel nothing but admiration and solidarity, you cross a line. I've written and spoken about my own mental health challenges. I've taken antidepressants in the past and they've helped me. Many health professionals are concerned that young people are struggling with mental health are being shunted towards hormones and surgery when this may not be in their best interest. So now she's saying anti-transition, and as it says later, like, many, myself included, believe we are watching a new kind of conversion therapy for young gay people who are being set on a lifelong path of medicalization that may result in the loss of their fertility and or full sexual function, completely negating the fact that it's only like 0.1% of a very small percentage of people anyway that detransition, and most of those people that actually detransition are people that, you know, the majority of them, yes, there is a few in the bunch that detransition because they weren't trans at all in the first place, but most of the people who actually detransition, of that still small percentage, detransition because it was not the right time for them, even though they are still trans, or they did it because of social pressures, or that it was a dangerous environment for them to transition in. Totally negating that fact, she then, compares it to a type of conversion therapy. I don't know how I can explain the stupidity of that. I can give it a try. Conversion therapy is, I mean, most people probably know, but if you don't know, conversion therapy is where, for example, they'll send gay people into a type of institute place and will try and teach them to be not gay anymore, and or trans people into a type of conversion place and trying to teach them to not be trans, or that they weren't trans in the first place, and saying that transitioning is a type of conversion therapy. I mean, by definition case, you could call it that. You know, I'm converting into a man, I guess, and it's therapy for me because it helped me out, but conversion therapy is a totally different thing, and saying that it's just some type of lifelong medicalization that results in the loss of fertility or full sexual function. Most times, if people don't get the medicalization of transitioning because of dysphoria and because of other issues that come along with that, it won't just be a loss of fertility someone will deal with. They could deal with the loss of their life, because the suicide rates are so high, and it seems like the small percentage, the small percentage of people that detransition that aren't actually trans, so that's a small percentage of a small percentage, you are trying to go against all of transitioning and all of the point of trans people going through the sort of hormonal transition and things like this. Saying it's conversion therapy for young gay people is basically saying that people who transition, like me for example, I am a trans man, or, you know, I have transitioned from female to male. So you're saying I'm a lesbian that has gone through some kind of conversion therapy to become a man to fix my, you know, first off, I'm bisexual, so I like men and I like women and I like all genders in general, because bi is like same and other to me. So that one, and I know plenty gay. I mean, saying this is just completely like, I know plenty gay trans men and lesbian trans women, so what you're saying is just also erasing them. I was being really nice and fair in the video when I was reading your other tweets, but you are just now a dickhead, really. You're like, like, this was a line, and I like to be fair until people cross a line. Like, I've given you chances, especially in the video. I was like, I can understand why you're saying this, I get it, but this is why it's wrong. Like, now you've just taken it too far. And I can't even, there's so many more tweets, oh my god. These concerns were explored in a recent BBC documentary about Tavistock Clinic. I'm going to make a video possibly on that documentary because I've heard it's like terrible. I think I watched it and it was like, talking about transitions driven by homophobia. That is like such a small portion. As I've said many times, transition may be the answer for some, okay. For others, it won't witness the accounts of detransitioners. I've made a video about the accounts of detransitioners, and I've spoken about detransitioners, and I've said in that previous video, I have no issue with detransitioners. It's just such a small percentage, and it's going to happen no matter what. I mean, there are people that get face surgery and they regret it, but are you going to ban all face surgery or start putting posts up about how any surgery on the body should be banned or shouldn't be allowed or should be restricted crazy amounts more just because a small percentage are not happy with it? No, you go into this signing consent forms, doing all this kind of stuff because that's what you, in your mind, you're like, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to go through with. So plenty of us witness the accounts of detransitioners. I've looked into it, I've made videos on it. I mean, there's nothing much else I can really say about it. The system sees surgery as an easy fix to girls who do not conform. Oh, okay, am I a girl who doesn't conform? Nice. I definitely have always been. Back then, I was seen as a girl that didn't conform, whether it be to my church when I was brought up in Catholic, or whether it be, you know, but that's what other people saw me as, not what I saw myself as. But I transitioned because it was the right thing for me, not because I just didn't want to conform, and then I thought, oh, it would be better for me to just be the completely different sex rather than, no. Sophie is a trans woman and a true feminist ally. She was making the point that antidepressants were overprescribed to teenagers in the past with serious consequences. And this Sophie person basically said, hormone prescriptions are the antidepressants, this and that, they are not necessarily life-saving, but they are a last resort, not the first option. Saying like it's a last resort, not the first option, this and that, yeah, we know, because when you go to these clinics, they give you have to go through so much. Look, I've been on a waiting list. It's much easier when you go private, but it's still months and months and months and a lot of money. And you can only go private when you're an adult anyway, and that is your decision to go through with. But when it comes to these NHS ones, I mean, I've been on one for over 4 years. They've probably forgotten about me. I called back and they were like, we can't tell you how long it is. And even if that is happening, once I've got my first appointment, it can take another year or so until I get an appointment looking to give me hormones. And I've gone through my transition completely privately because I'm privileged and lucky enough to do that. But it is not easy. So I don't know how many times we can tell you this. Then she says, the long-term health risks of cross-sex hormones haven't been now tracked over a lengthy period. These side effects are often minimised or denied by trans activists. No, when we go into it, okay, there might be some trans activists that like to deny things. I don't know, I haven't kept it, but it's a small portion. We get told when we go into this all of the health side effects, and we would rather that than deal with the dysphoria. That is the point of transition, and the point in life. I have so many people going on about these things, especially with everything that's going on in the world at the moment, and I think that is the point in a lot of things in life. There are going to be always negative things and positive things, and you have to weigh these things. You have to think, is my dysphoria worse than the idea of having these health risks? And most of the times for people who are actually trans, it's yes. Some people who trans don't transition, but most of the time, like with me, I was like, yes, I would rather go on testosterone, risk some of these health issues. And in fact, testosterone actually fixed a lot of my health issues. I had really bad low blood pressure. I used to almost faint most of the time when I stood up. It heightened my blood pressure and fixed that. I used to have a bunch of other issues, like ovary type issues. Taking testosterone fixed that. Like, there's so much stuff that testosterone has fixed, but also mental health wise. people often like to think mainly about the physical and not the mental, though, unfortunately. But hormone therapy during gender transition may increase risk for cardiovascular events. Yeah, because it can heighten the blood pressure. But for me, it was good because I had too low blood pressure. I understand it can be bad for other people, but that is the point. We know the negative health risks. And I think, really, okay, I can explain all day. We know the negative health risks, yet we continue doing it because there are more positives for the dysphoria that outweigh the negative possible health risks. We know this. We get told this. We get a whole list. I had it before my surgeries, before my hormones, before just about anything. I get like a whole list, and you have to read through it and tick the box to say, yes, I'm aware. This can happen. And that is the point of going through these things, and, you know, you consent, you sign. Cool. But I think the main thing is, J.K. Rowling, I'm not saying that cis people can't talk about trans issues, but I think J.K. Rowling just needs to shut the fuck up for a minute. Look, to the people who are defending J.K. Rowling like Blair, I understand we all have different levels of being offended. Some people are like, oh, people are too snowflakey these days. People are too offended by stuff. I don't easily get offended by stuff at all. To people like Blair, whether or not you are offended by something is completely irrelevant to whether it is actually problematic to a community. So I was not offended by most of the stuff she said. However, I understood, because some of the stuff she said was about trans women, some of the stuff wouldn't have offended me. Even the people who menstruate tweet didn't particularly offend me. I'm like, whatever, I don't really care what this woman is saying. However, because it didn't offend me doesn't mean I can't use my understanding and my brain to look how it can be problematic for the community. And we've already got enough problematic stuff. Imagine placing the word gay or lesbian in half of the stuff that she writes. So let's just say an example. If in one of her tweets that was, instead of the people who menstruate tweet, so imagine if the article was based on, for example, the title was, or the quote was, people who date men. And her response was, oh, there used to be a word for that. What was it? Women? Women's? Women's? Like, if that was her response to that, people would be, rightly so, really angry at her. However, because that would be her saying that only women date men, and the article would have been trying to be inclusive to gay, bisexual, and all other sexualities of people. However, people would be so mad, much like with Piers Morgan. He says things like non-binary people, it's just crazy, all these different genders. But if you said gay people are just crazy, it's crazy, they have all these different sexualities. Like, you see the level, you see the different levels that people can be held accountable nowadays. For some reason, being trans nowadays, it's a bit easier to jab at. Quite a lot easier to jab at. And it's because it's hard to understand, and I understand that. But sometimes you just need to stop. I was being nice and fair in this video, and now I'm ranting. Like, I don't like to rant in videos, but I think it needs a rant. Like, especially because because people haven't gone through it, I don't think people realise how difficult it is to go through this transition and to even get the testosterone, to even get through these things, because there's so many obstacles in your goddamn way. And then people like her online are going on about, yes, okay, you can mention the detransitioners, but you've got to realise that when you're making a whole thread of tweets speaking about all the negative parts and negative things of a transition, more people will look at a transition negatively. And there might be more sanctions against transitioning. And there might be more people who are like, oh, you're transitioning this and that. It's silly to transition. You're just someone who's, for example, as J.K. Rowling said, just a gay person who's trying to conform. Like, I'm probably going to hear that now. Since she said it, I'm probably going to hear it in my comment section. Like, that's how it works. I've tried to explain as much as I can about how it can, like, affect the community and harm, not necessarily me as a person, but there is already too much negativity about the thing. There is so many different ways as well. She could have, you know, targeted this subject to do with detransitioners. She could have supported them, but at the end of the day, you're allowed to mention these things. She's allowed to say whatever the hell she wants. But when she's getting annoyed at the backlash, I mean, it's when you're making loads of tweets about a certain group of people that are already attacked enough, then you are going to get people wanting to shout back at you and be angry at you because we're already angry enough at other people who are saying the same things. And then when someone who's such a big voice in different communities decides to then start jabbing at us again, and yeah, people might say she's jabbing at us with facts, or she's jabbing at us with this and that, she's actually just trying to wake up all the snowflakes. Like, we understand there are detransitioners. We understand sex is a biological thing that exists. I am a female. However, I don't hate on people who don't like to call themselves that if they're a trans man, or trans women who don't like to call themselves male, because sometimes it's nice to just try and ignore that part. However, yeah, I'm a female. That's what, you know, I understand that biologically. However, I identify in a different way. Yeah, I understand there needs to be women's rights. Like, cis women's rights can be different in some particular ways to trans women's rights, only because they have been brought up in that particular way. However, I don't see how, for example, if a trans woman has, you know, how a trans woman needs to have less rights. I don't understand. Sometimes they need to be worded differently, and sometimes trans women also need different rights for themselves because of their situation. That's just how it is, much like sometimes trans men will need different rights for their situation, but they can still be sort of grouped under, you know, human rights. Trans women's rights can still be grouped under women's rights, but they might just need a different category. We understand this. No one's trying to take away anyone's rights, and I understand you're scared about the idea of a man dressed in a wig coming into the ladies' toilets and claiming they're a trans woman. I understand that is what you're scared of.
Most trans exclusionists actually ignore the concept of trans men entirely, and the reason for that is because those that do include them contradict their own arguments.
If you include trans men in your feminism, you're essentially saying trans men are women, and that you would be happy for trans men like me to use women's changing rooms and toilets. This is something that would be incredibly uncomfortable for me and you.
Then you're really allowing easy access for men into women's spaces, and that's the case even if you don't accept that Jamie is a man, because if a trans man like Jamie with a beard and penis and balls, right, can go into a women's toilets, and that is deemed okay because his biological sex was female, what is to stop a cis man from doing the same?
If you then say that trans people only post-genital surgery can use the correct toilets for their gender, how on earth would you propose this was enforced? Are you going to hire somebody to stand outside every single public toilet and changing rooms to carry out genital checks?
Trans women, like all women, should be allowed into women's only spaces, like changing rooms, because they too should also be included in feminism and protected within women's rights. Black women, trans women, gay women, every single woman. It doesn't mean that every single woman needs the exact same things, but it does mean that trans women can be included and should be included without impeding any rights of cisgender women. This same argument to not include trans women was also used to exclude black women from white women only spaces and lesbian women from straight women only spaces. People used to think that black women and lesbians would attack white women and straight women. This, the trans exclusionist argument, is just history repeating itself, except the women being targeted against is changed.
If you think about it, I wasn't calling anyone transphobic, but being so scared that you have to make loads of tweets about the idea of trans women going into cis women's spaces is kind of the definition of transphobic. And that's why I don't usually use transphobic, because it's, oh, the fear of trans people, and people will say, oh, I'm not afraid of trans people. But in that one particular case, that is fear. And at the end of the day, no matter if you banned all trans people from cis people's spaces, harassment would still happen, because that is just how life goes. So there's more in the Jamie and Shabba video. They speak about that. They probably say it much more eloquently, but you know, I think I've come to the end of my rant. But I was being nice in the video. I like to be fair, and just pushed it too far. When you're speaking on on and over the voices of actual trans people who are saying, no, this is our experience, and you're saying, no, but I read this article, and there's loads of trans people in the community just screaming at you, no, this is not how it is, it's much harder to transition, we are not trying to take away things rights, like cis women's rights. We are not trying to harass anyone. We just want to live. We just want to live normally and whatever. But then you're saying tweets like, no, this is actually true. Listen to me. I love my trans friends. Oh my God, I'm such a trans ally. Look at these trans women that are backing me up. Like Blair White and Sophie or whatever her name is. I understand. It's a complicated situation. And just let me know in the comments down below. I mean, there's other videos I might need to make on this. This is going to be a long one, but it's just a rant. Oh my days. Okay, I just want to say I'd like to have anyone who does not agree with me. Yes, I know I've had a rant. Please discuss nicely in the comment section with me and with everyone. No one fight in the comment section or anything, even though I do love a good juicy rant between people in the comments, but you know, just have a nice discussion about it, because I know a lot of people are going to have different opinions, and yeah, I'm tired. That's actually worn me out, that rant. I'm actually tired. Oh my God. Please like, comment and subscribe, I guess. I mean I'm gonna make a science video at some point coming up soon, so watch out for that. And I'm also gonna make a science video about the biology of being trans and mental health and stuff like that. That it's all, you know, I'm gonna go through that, but I gotta do the research for that. So anyways, bye, subscribe, see ya.